And welcome back. It's the 29th of May, higher plus 5 a day. And let's just go straight to the first one. Right, the curve A to the X crosses the Y-axis at the point A. Write it down. Maths code 4, not a lot of maths needed here. You should know that the graph of any exponentially growing curve looks like this. And it always goes through. Well, if X is 0, anything to the power of 0 is 1. So it always goes through 1. So the answer to my question is 0, 1. Good question. Next one. Finn and Ben take part in a 10-kilometer race. Ben crossed the start line at 2 p.m. and jogs the entire race. Okay. Finn crossed the start line at 2:10 and jogged at constant speed. Finn overtook Ben at 2:40. Okay, this is a good one. So again, a problemy question, isn't it? So Finn and Ben take part in a 10-kilometer race. So the distance is 10 kilometers. Ben crossed the start line at 2 p.m. and jogs the entire race at 8 kilometers per hour. Well, I don't really care about the entire race, but I do care that they meet at 2:40. And 40 is, well, it's 40/60ths, which is 2/3 of an hour. Ben has jogged 2/3 of an hour at 8 kilometers an hour, which is 16 over 3 kilometers. Now, remember, that's where they just cross over. So they cross over at 16.3, which means 10 minus that, 14 over 3 left. Okay, now, for Ben to jog the remaining, so remaining for Ben, so I'm still on Ben. So for Ben to jog the remaining, that's going to be distance, which is 14 over 3, divided by speed, which is 8, which is 7 over 12 hours, which is the same as times by 60, 35 minutes. So that's from the point they cross over. So what do I want? How long before Ben does Finn finish the race? Well, it takes Ben the remaining 35 minutes to get to the line. So we next need to work out Finn's speed. So Finn's, if we think about what it is, so 2:10 is when it starts, and they cross over at 2:40. That's half an hour distance. So it takes half an hour for Finn to do the how long is it? Where do they meet? They meet at 16 over 3. So it takes half an hour for Finn to do the 16 over 3 kilometers. So calculator again. I'm doing all this on my calculator. So 16 over 3 divided by a half tells you that his speed, Finn's speed, is 32 over 3 kilometers per hour. Now, therefore, how long does it take Finn, running at 32 over 3 kilometers per hour, to run the remaining 14 over 3? Well, it's going to be 14 over 3 divided by 32 over 3, which is 7 over 16. Multiply that by 60, so times by 60, tells me that how many minutes is that? 26.25 minutes. What does the question want? Let's remember what the question wants. The question wants how long before Ben does Finn finish the race? Well, the difference between these two here, let's highlight them. So the difference between these two here, the time it took Finn to get to the finish line from their crossing point to the time it took Ben is going to be 35 minus 26.5, 8.75 minutes. Now, that will probably be acceptable because it doesn't say minutes and seconds, but let's remember that 3/4 of a minute is 45 seconds. So you could also say 8 minutes, 45 seconds. I think that is quite a difficult question. So if you got there, well done. Again, if you didn't, go through it again. It's important not just to go, oh, I didn't get that, but just go through it again, check you're okay with it. Not awful. Obviously, I'll squeeze it into a box a little bit, but just lay out clearly how long it took this to happen, how long's left, how long am I do. Good question. Next one. Okay, we've got a triangle. So the area of the triangle is, I'm going to zoom in a bit. So the area of the triangle is this, find x. Okay, so we're back to fairly straightforward questions. So I know from the sine rule that half times 2x minus 3 times x plus 4 times sine of 60 is equal to 15 root 3. In other words, area of a triangle. Now I can sort some of this out, can't I? So let's expand the brackets. That's going to be 2x squared plus 8x minus 3x minus 12. And then sine 60 is root 3 over 2 times a half is root 3 over 4 is equal to 15 root 3. And the reason I've done that is because I can cancel my root 3's. Let's carry on going. So I've got 2x squared plus, well, actually, let's combine these. So 8 minus 3 is 5. So plus 5x. And I've got minus 12 Now, remember, I still have this 4 here, because actually, really, and I've written that quite badly, this is the whole thing multiplied by 3 over 4, isn't it? So if I multiply the 4 up here, that gives me 60. Take away 60 from both sides gives me this, and that is equal to 0, which leaves me with the quadratic. 2x squared plus 5x minus 72 is equal to 0. Now, can I factorize this? I'm not sure I can. Don't feel like they're nice numbers. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Usual rule, can't see it straight away, quadratic formula. So a is equal to 2, b is equal to 5. This is a good quadratic typical sort of problem, by the way. C is equal to minus 72, which means that x is equal to minus 5 plus minus a square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times minus 72, which makes this a plus, and divide all that by 2 times 2, which is 4. Now, let's work out the square root first. So 25 plus 4 times 2 times 72 is 601. And importantly, 601 is much bigger than 5. So therefore, I must use the add, because I can't have a negative number. So I'm going to do minus 5 plus the square root of 601. I'm going to divide all that by 4, and that's going to give me approximately 4.8836 fig. And what am I measuring? I'm measuring centimeters. So 4.88 centimeters. Good question. Problem question, set it up, do the solving. 5 marks in the exam. Next one, find and estimate the median. Right, okay. Now I need a cumulative frequency. So if I add these up, so here is between 0 and 4. Then I'm going to add 12, so that's going to give me 16. Then I'm going to add 26, which is going to give me 42. Then I'm going to add 8, which is going to give me 50. So in other words, my n is equal to 50, which means my median is going to be the 25th thing. Well, 25 lies in between 16 and 42. So in other words, how far along this class do I go? Well, it's 25 minus the 16 I'm starting at, so this 16 here, divide by the class width, which is 26, multiplied by, not the class width, the frequency of the class, multiplied by the class width, which is 5, in other words, 15 minus 10, and then add on the initial value, which is 10. Now, I did that quickly, and I've done quite a few of these in previous videos. So again, run through it. Definitely, again, as I've said before in other questions, check you're okay with it. But either way, calculator out, and that gives me, what do I want to do? Amount spent. So I'm going to put in pounds and pence, so £11.73. Not a unreasonable question. Good question. Next and final question today. F of x equals this thing here, g of x equals this thing here. Solve f of x equals g of 2x. Okay. Give each answer to one decimal place. All right, let's do what it says then. So f of x, which is x squared minus 8, is equal to g of 2x, which is 6 minus 7 times 2x, which obviously 14x. Let's collect these. So x squared, well, minus 7 times 2 is minus 14. So add 14 to both sides is 14x. Minus 8 minus 6 is minus 14, and that is going to be equal to 0. Now, I do know straight away I can't factorize this, because 14 is only 2 and 7. That's not going to work. So therefore, x is equal to, second one today, isn't it? So quadratic formula again. So x equal to minus 14 plus minus 14 squared, 196, minus 4 times 14, but it's a negative, so that's a plus, and divide all that by 2. Now it says solve, giving it each answer. So here there are two answers, a plus 1 and a minus 1. So let's resolve the square root. So 14 squared plus 4 times 14 is 6 root 7 on my calculator. That's minus 14 plus minus 6 root 7 over 2. Let's do the plus 1. So minus 14 plus 6 root 7 over 2, 0.9 to one decimal place. And the minus version is minus 14.9 to one decimal place. And that is it. Question done. I thought today was quite difficult. Definitely more tricky, mid-late end paper questions. So not the hardest question at the end, but definitely some tricky questions here. So well done for all those. As ever, do like, subscribe. See you tomorrow.